Okay, y'all. Apparently, I just went all this time and didn't say a single word. Don't ask me how. It's never happened before, at least not while I'm in here. This thing somehow muted itself. So apologies. I'm just going to start that whole thing all over again. So, Hickory Ridge Soap from Two Old Crows Homestead.com. Turn that sip into a pimp. Heaven's Harvest, 10% off with promo code FIRMA. Perma, tip a pimp on the Fountain app. All right. Once again, everybody coming in. Apparently, we got sound right now. Folks, just a little side note. I've had people on this podcast before. I kid you not, that everything would seem to go haywire until we got down, and literally we would pray together. And then all of a sudden, I know you could call me a snake oil salesman all you want. It's happened more than once. William was in here a couple of times when it happened also, where we talked about some esoteric topics that maybe the powers that shouldn't be didn't necessarily want to get out. And then all of a sudden we find out we've recorded a whole show, don't have any audio. Never happened before, never happened since. And then all of a sudden, we got weird stuff going on right now. So anyway, want to thank everybody for coming in. I gave a shout out to a lot of you out there. Apparently nobody heard it. So once again, everybody coming in, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up so they immediately start suppressing us. You know how that goes. Going to have another guest on tonight, so we'll get to that in a little bit. All right, so I'm not going to mess around. I'll just jump right into the farm news. Well, y'all, this has been one seriously busy week for me. Not only is it like all the things that you typically do on a farm, but in addition to that, I've done 3 other podcasts so far this week. The first one was in Homestead Shop Talk, and that's with Al, Ben, and Jason. And Ben and Jason I know pretty well. They're friends of mine. And it's a good podcast. What I love about it most is that you feel like whenever these guys are talking, it just feels like you're overhearing a conversation from that you feel like you're in the room. So it's a real warm, homey kind of podcast. And I was their first ever guest, man. So I felt really honored. And, I was in another podcast called Disorganized Productions. This is one of a number of other interviews that I've done with people overseas. I had no idea how much this information that people overseas are listening to, and they're digging it. I mean, I guess the freedom message is really getting out there, y'all. And maybe that's what the powers that shouldn't be don't want to have happen. So, Disorganized Productions over there, Rob, he talks about a number of topics. And I do want to point out, and folks, this is a big deal. I mean, I did a podcast with a guy in Ireland just recently. And then I did one with Rob at Disorganized Productions podcast. And it's funny how they're confirming not what you hear on the mainstream prostitute media, but they confirm all the stuff you hear from the people that are in the independent media regarding the things that are happening in their countries, and how they're saying, dude, this is a tinderbox. It's about to get stupid. It's going to blow up at some point. And they hear the freedom message that I think we're providing right here at this podcast. And so many people, I mean, I'm having to turn folks down because I just don't have the bandwidth and I don't have the time. But over and over and over again, man, this thing is growing. And I want to thank everybody for being on board, because it's not about me. It's first and foremost, whatever we see, whatever we eat, drink, or whatever we do for the glory of God. At least I tried to as best I can, y'all. And I mean that. I pray for y'all. I did today. We did last night. And we got to make sure this message is getting out there, y'all, because so many people worldwide, it is jaw-dropping to me just how many people are resonating with this freedom message. And you guys are all part of that. So I can't thank you enough for all you're doing to help spread this podcast. Leave us a review if you're listening to it on the audio format. And also, tell everybody what we're doing here, because I know that some of what I do is not going to be popular, and I am far beyond. I mean, literally, I was late walking into the studio right now because I literally just did a front porch talk, and it's about Black History Month. And you might find it interesting. So there was a lot of things I was going to do. If anybody that listens to this podcast knows my intentions of what I intended to do, but here, in a whisper, February's gone, and here we are about to go into March. So I didn't do any of these social experiments I wanted to do, but I will. And you guys, when you watch that video, by all means, let me know if you want me to do that. So another podcast that I'm going to be on tonight, and that's going to be out later. It's the Firmamental podcast. My friends Raul and Alex, man, these guys they become really good friends of mine. It's amazing that some of the most, just like a lot of you guys in the chat right now, you feel rather isolated. I know because I read your letters. I don't, at least the ones that actually get to me through the email. I read your letters and you tell me, some of you, just how isolated you feel where you are and how this virtual world is the only place that you're able to find anybody else that's talking about the things that concern you, your family, all through the sweet and sour sniffles thing. Maybe they sent you packing, or maybe they don't want to hear any of the stuff that you find valuable. You're awake. Everybody else isn't. And so, I know what that feels like. And that's why, I've been really making it a high focus to talk about all these functions that are going on. Some of them, I'm not going to be there. So I don't get necessarily anything out of doing this outside of building this community, because these in-person gatherings, believe me, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to let you in on a little bit of a secret here. Every single gathering, and I don't care what it's for, is 90% about the community and less about the presentations. I kid you not. Now, please be respectful when you're listening to if you're going to have a conversation, y'all try to take it outside of the area where people are actually listening. But holler if you hear me, y'all. I know there's a lot of you in the chat right now that agree 100%. It is not about, that information is helpful. It's handy. It's all those wonderful things. But it's really the bigger part of all of this is building a community of at least somebody on this planet that you can have a conversation with that doesn't think you're crazy for growing food or having the opinions that you think about this world. So anyway, y'all, long story short, all these podcast interviews, y'all, it means the word is getting out, not only of this magnificent design science we call permaculture, but in addition to that, I make no bones every single chance I get on every one of these podcasts. I make it very clear that I am a Christian, American, heterosexual, pro-gun, liberty-minded permaculture designer that might be a person of color. And that makes me about as rare as a doggone unicorn. So if I can get out there and spread this message, y'all, I'm asking you. I was doing all of this. I want to make this very, very clear. Before my career in talk radio, when I was working on my tools as a journeyman electrician, y'all, I would talk to every human being alive about what I thought was passionate. Now, in those days, in no ways would I have called myself a Christian. In fact, some of those guys I worked with then don't even, I wasn't a professing Christian, okay? I didn't make that known, or I should say follower of Christ, because that means so many different things these days. But I'll tell you what I was passionate at the time, permaculture. And there's not a soul that worked with me that did not know about it. In fact, I tried to make it so infectious that they wanted to go home and give it a shot. And in most cases, in fact, they did. I only wish now that I was just as passionate about the other things that are far more important. So anyway, I've said all that. Look, y'all, it's not to get on my soapbox. I just know that a lot of you out there feel absolutely positively isolated. And this might be one of the few outlets you have out there. Maybe you get a message or a short from a homesteading pastor. Maybe you listen to some of the other people out there. Believe me, there's more people than you know that think like you do and have the same doggone issues. You're not as isolated as you think. So maybe in the future, think about some of these gatherings. So other things going on. Michelle's doing something of a seed starting experiment. We're going to hope to put that out there tomorrow. And that one was inspired once again by one of my heroes in the space, Stefan Subkowiak, the permaculture orchard man himself. He is dropping it like it's hot over there on his YouTube. I'm told that means something else these days, but I don't know. Anyway, he's dropping massive loads of information over on his YouTube channel. And he's going to be kicking out a podcast. But if you want, I get nothing for this. He's got an online course for anybody that's wondering, okay, where do I start with permaculture? How do I put it all together? He's got an online course that'll knock your socks off. So it's not cheap, but then again, find me something that's worthwhile that is. And you can break it down. You can pay for the courses that you think are just relevant to what you want to know. And honestly, she's down there working on that right now, doing a seed starting experiment based on his knowledge. So the man is an absolute doggone genius. All right, so man, I had to run to town today. That's usually a once a week thing. I go work with my partner, stop by the bakery, go pick up what I need, all those things for my animals. And I'll be absolutely honest with y'all. Man, all I could think about, I like cowboy movies, man, because they're usually pretty clean, maybe not as of late, but all I could think, and y'all, this is not what I personally think, but I was thinking of this line in this cowboy movie where you got these two saloon owners, and one says to the other, man, he says, man, I'm so sick and tired of dealing with these hoople heads. And then the other one says, you know what? There's days I think it would just be easier to beat them over the head, steal their money, and dump the bodies in the creek. Now, in no way is that overlaid with my Christian ethic. In no way am I saying that, but I'm not going to lie and tell you that I didn't actually think of that today as I'm going out. I'm just, if my ship were to come in tomorrow, y'all, I don't know that I would ever leave unless it's to go to a gathering with all of you. Because honestly, man, there's just some days out here where I don't even know how people walk through a door without bumping their own head. And that's a quote from Augustus McCrae. Holler if you hear me, if you know what that, oh yeah, green country agroforestry. I think you got that right. If anybody knows the other cowboy miniseries that the latest one just came from, put it in the chat as well, because that was also a quote from a cowboy movie. If they put me on Jeopardy, I'd probably win the whole doggone thing if they had a thing for, useless trivia. I got a guest coming on here in a minute, but we'll get to that in a minute. I was going to talk about some of the trails they got in the sky today and what are some of the effects that I suspect are going on. Pastor Lon might recognize some of them, but I'm noticing a pattern out here. Every time they do the spraying like they did today, well, there's a whole lot of other things that go on, and it's not just in the weather per se, it's in other things as well. All right, before I get into the good news, Organic Grower School, it's going to be coming up real quick, March 8th and 9th. I'm going to be teaching there. J.M. Fortier is also going to be there. Keeper of the Old Ways. We got Jessica coming on here in a little bit from Keeper of the Old Ways. We're going to talk about what they got going on. Folks, it's one of the best festivals you don't know about, and you need to. Mountain Ready, and that's going to be April 12th and 13th. And I truly wish I could be down there, but we're going to be in the middle of lambing season. So I kind of overcommitted for that. And yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. Mountain Readiness, that's going to be May 3rd through the 5th. That one's near to the house. That's going to be in Harmony, North Carolina. I'm going to be there. And a number of other people are going to be there as well. And I think we got a link for that one down below where you get, I don't know if it's a discount code, but if you're going to go to it, that one I will be there. So jump right into the good news. And I'm sorry to keep my guests waiting, but let me go ahead and get this. Check this out. I won't spend too much time on this. Sylvester Stallone announces that he and his family are permanently leaving California and moving to Florida. Wow. Who else just did him out of California? Joe Rogan. And I think he probably ended up in someplace just as bad, which is Austin, Texas. But I'm sure he's not right there in the doggone city. So anyway, what's that tell you? I'm going to call that good news. I'm putting that definitely in the good news column. Because honestly, there's something of a diaspora happening out of California. A lot of wonderful people. Everybody focuses on all the people that are bringing all their dumb stuff with them. But I'm telling you what, all of the great friends that I have in North Carolina are transplant from California, and they are some of the best people I know. And like I said, two of them, the Holler Homestead and Jason at Sow the Land. Both of those came from California, y'all, and these people are getting it done. Wonderful people, wonderful friends, wonderful families, and yeah, just don't get to spend enough time with them. So hopefully that'll happen soon. But yeah, there's a diaspora out of California, so I'm calling that good news. Check this out. We got some natural ways to manage aches and pains, and some of these I know about. I'm not going to endorse all of them, and you'll know why here in a minute. So obviously, some of these are going to be acupuncture and therapeutic massage. They talk about yoga in here, but I ain't down with that. I probably could do an esoteric podcast on why. And I know there are people that see it a different way, but if you do, that's, rock, do your thing. One of them I really wanted to hit on here was music therapy. I do this one every single day, and I'm using music from either Whole Tones or this guy that does this harp. I can't think of his name. I wish I could give him attribution, but I listen to his stuff even at the same time every single day. In fact, I've taken the Psalms and I've overlaid it with some of these healing frequencies, like 444 hertz. I've talked about the history and all this, and I'm telling you what, y'all, it is believed that that's the frequency that King David used when Saul was tripping. So, music therapy, y'all, believe me, I'm a strong believer in that, and a lot of other things that I'm trying to. Obviously, natural herbs and spices, heat and cold therapy. Okay, doing these cold showers. Y'all, it works. And I told you one of my hacks for doing it is I recite the Psalms as I go through it. So I started with Psalm 1, say it by heart, then Psalm 2, then Psalm 3. Now I'm in the Psalm 4. And you'd be shocked at what that does for your mental wherewithal. And if you got a cold immersion tub or just a bathtub, you can put cold water in it. It doesn't have to be as cold as everybody's letting on. It just has to be, according to Gary Brecka, below 51 degrees, which isn't hard to achieve. And then last, they say, seek a professional. Okay, be mindful of some of those professionals. Yeah, I'm just going to leave that one right there. All right, and then my last good news story, and it's not going to seem like good news, but I'm going to say it is because at least it's creating awareness. So, and this is part of and this goes in hand with the story I just talked about a moment ago. California, ignoring the massive radioactive waste dumped in the Pacific Ocean while spending billions on green alternatives. How you like me now? Sound a little bit weird to you? Well, it does to me. Okay, nobody's even talking about this one anymore, but I'm going to bring it up. How about Fukushima? You know what they're doing with all that heavy water? They're dumping it in the doggone Pacific. We got orca colonies off the coast of California and Oregon, all up to Canada, that haven't had a single birth since all this stuff went down with Fukushima. But you're worried about somebody using plastic bottles. Man, this is part of what people, I think, are waking up to. And plus, I got good friends out in California, and they say they had just about enough of it. All right, we're going to get to our guest here in a minute, but before, we're going to go to my man, Eric Sider.
Hey, Eric Sider here with your Pimpcast tip of the day. Today's tip, you couldn't do a worse job. While it's true that taking a permaculture design course doesn't instantly make you a designer, it does make you better than what passes for design out there in the world, simply by the fact you know the right questions to ask. In fact, it's impossible not to see the world in permaculture terms after your course. Look at any housing development being built right now and everything is wrong. There's no rainwater storage or gray water use. The houses are oriented the wrong way based on roads that are going the wrong way. There is no mainframe consideration. So adding passive heating and cooling is difficult, if not impossible. The houses require massive energy inputs to heat and cool them. The landscaping is a joke if there's much land at all. The houses keep getting bigger as the land gets smaller. It's like they are trying to create a system that wastes as much energy as possible. I wonder who that serves. Bill Mollison always said we need permaculture people involved in development. And if you want to see one of the only permaculture designed suburbs, check out Village Homes in Davis, California. Both Bill Mollison and Jeff Lawton have video tours you can watch. Village Homes prove you could build a sensibly designed development at the same cost and size as a conventional development, and yet it was never repeated. I wonder why that is. You can find me on YouTube and Instagram at Eric Sider, and if you're in need of permaculture t-shirts or remote permaculture consultation and design, head over to ericsider.com.
That's my dog right there, y'all. And he's right about that neighborhood. I mean, good night. There are so many different ways and so many awesome ways we can really put a foot in the butt of all the problems we get out there. Why are we pooping in the water? Okay? And why are we taking all the water, the gray water that comes out of your sink and your shower, your washer and dryer, your washer? Why do we put that in the septic along with everything else? Why aren't we separating that water and using it for some really good things? Oh, California, here you go. There's a great idea for you. I remember Eric telling me once that if he were the governor of California, first of all, there'd be sanity in the place once again, that he would basically have earth-moving equipment going day and night, capturing every drop of rain that hit that soil, and then doing, the sensible, common sense stuff that we ought to be doing. All right, before we go to my guest, y'all, you're going to be glad she's here. EMP Shield, y'all, $50 off with promo code PERMA, PERMA. Look, y'all, EMP Shield didn't reach out to me. I reached out to them because they have the very best out there. Take it from me. 25-year IBEW journeyman electrician. The number one threat you have on your house is not necessarily an EMP, it's a lightning strike. So if anything, here's how awesome and ironclad their guarantee is. If anything gets Kentucky fried downstream of that EMP shield, bam, 25 G's is what they're going to cover you. So you don't even have to go to your insurance. All right, with that said, y'all, I'm going to bring on my guest here, the very wonderful person named, I don't have to call you person. Good night. I'm not talking about Lefty. We got a wonderful lady named Jessica, and she is basically in charge of Keeper of the Old Ways. How you doing, Jessica?
Doing good. How about you?
Is a day the Lord hath made, and I will rejoice and be glad in it. Holler up if you hear me in the chat, y'all. Hit that thumbs up. Tell everybody, tell YouTube to start suppressing us, but not until after my guest is gone. So tell me a little bit about. You got a little bit of background noise in your thing, but I'm not sure you can do anything about it. It sounded like a drone going overhead.
That's these rednecks around here with their loud trucks. I'm inside and it's that loud.
Okay, you got a festival coming up and everybody needs to know about it because I was there last year and I said then that it's the best festival that nobody's ever heard about down there in Dothan, Alabama. Why don't you tell us about it?
So this is our 4th year that we're putting this event on. The first 2 years we had it in Florida and we kind of outgrew our location. And so we moved to Dothan last year. This event we put on at a little pioneer village. It's got all the old cabins back from the 1800s, and we use those for some of our classrooms as well. And we offer over 30 classes each day, and we also offer kid classes as well as having activities to keep the kids entertained, so mom and dad aren't stressed out the whole time, so they can enjoy it. We want this to be a family event.
That was something, honestly, that I loved about your event that I didn't see nowhere near to the extent at any other event that I've ever been to, is that you guys literally had awesome, I mean, you had a bouncy house, you had a play equipment, there was stuff that was already on the property. And if I'm not mistaken, y'all even had security for all that, didn't you?
We did. We make sure we have security each day just in case. You never know what could happen, what could conspire about. So we want to make sure everybody feels safe, especially with bringing your children in. That's a big thing. I have kids of my own, so I try to think like a mama.
Yeah, I don't know how you were able to manage everything. You know, you had David the Good there, you had me, and of course we're a couple of wily creatures that you can't really it ain't the kids you got to worry about, it's the adults. But it was a really unbelievable event. I mean, the part that got me most was the level of fellowship and that went on among all the people there. There was not any silly rivalries or anything that I could detect, and you guys had some really, really awesome things going on. So give us a highlight of for all the people out there that might think about going. What do you got breaking down this year?
So David the Good will be back this year teaching 2 classes. And then we have Perry Hill Farms coming. They'll be offering all of our butchering classes this year. So we have how to process a pig. We'll have on-site chicken processing and rabbit processing as well. Megan over from Living the Height Life is going to come in. So you'll learn how to raise your meat rabbits and then go straight from that class and learn how to process your meat rabbits. So it'll be a back-to-back thing. We're also offering how to grow your own mushrooms. Foraging will be offered, blacksmithing, how to make bread, how to do sourdough, how to ferment. And then our kid class is what I'm most excited about this year. The kids are going to learn how to make their own toothbrush out of sawgrass. They're going to learn how to rig up a fishing pole from beginning to end with the poles, the line, learn the knot tying, and the different types of fishing that there is. It's more than just fishing for brim. So we're also going to have a class teaching kids how to raise chicks. So from the incubator to the table pretty much. And we're excited about that.
I'll tell you what, I really want to put out a request right now. I'm hoping that you live stream that toothbrush class so I can send it off to a couple of old boys I know in Arkansas.
All right.
Yeah, maybe live stream that thing, and maybe they don't have the next generation with 5 teeth in their head. I'm
I'm super excited about that class. And as I was talking to him the other day, he's got a few more ideas for some classes for kids for next year. So y'all definitely need to stay tuned because we're already planning for next year and we haven't even finished this year yet. We haven't even really started yet.
wow. I'm really hopping and popping. I'm so disappointed I can't get down there because I was all ready to go because honestly, Michelle and I had no idea you had so much going on around Dothan. I mean, it's a very cosmopolitan kind of city. Usually in a lot of these things where you're kind of struggling, like, okay, where am I going to go eat? Is there a place to stay? It was an absolute shock to us that so much was going on. I'd never heard of Dothan, Alabama before. And everything you could want in terms of a place to stay and things to eat, you got it all right there. Is there going to be food? Now, speaking of, something to eat, are you going to have food trucks there? What are the other amenities?
So we do have food trucks. We'll have a taco truck. There's a hot dog truck, and then a truck that's going to be selling like hamburgers, chicken fingers, and things like that. And we're in the works of working with a Cuban truck to come out as well. We're going to have roasted corn, shaved ice, kettle corn, and then we'll have our vendors there as well. We also have something new this year. There's 45 minutes in between each set of classes. So we'll have 5 classes running at once. You choose the class you want to take, and then you'll get a 45-minute break in between that. During that 45-minute break is when the kids can have their class and mom and dad can go shop. So kids take a class, mom and dad shop the vendors, but we'll have some demonstrations going on during that time as well. There'll be someone talking about vermicomposting, how to make soap, and then we also have someone coming to set up with some of the late antebellum stuff for the history of the Dothan, Alabama era that goes with the Civil War and all of that as well. So he'll have the costume set up, the guns, the whole 9 yards that you can come and they'll give a brief history of that time period. And so you can go by and see that as well. And then for kids, we're going to have a ton of games. We've got axe throwing coming back this year, the inflatable axe throwing, and then we're going to have a few like Connect 4, tic-tac-toe, the ring toss, and a few things like that. And then we have the playground there as well.
I tell you what, it's a winner. I mean, the location could not be a more perfect location. The weather was phenomenal down there, especially for all you folks that might be looking for a place. I mean, you're a stone's throw from the ocean if you're going down to this thing. So if you wanted to, if you wanted to make a real trip out of all of it and, make it a bigger thing, you got so many options around there, but it's not some little hole in the wall, y'all. This is a seriously cosmopolitan kind of place, but where you have it, you got the best of both worlds. You have complete access of the city, which is a stone's throw away, but you feel like you're isolated in the area that you have. I don't know that I've ever seen a better location for something like this. So, man, it's just breaking my heart that I can't go down there because I made friends down there. You were talking about Perry Hill Farms, man. It was so good to hang out with the whole family there. I mean, it's just really something else. And then Flomaton Famous, I don't know if they're coming back.
Oh yeah, they'll be back this year. Randall's teaching a grafting class, and Michelle's actually teaching this year. And she's going to be teaching on health and nutrition on the homestead. So that's going to be a new class for us this year. I'm excited about that one. We think we eat healthy just because we grow our food, but it goes beyond just growing your food. Health and nutrition can go so much further than that.
It's funny because every single time I go out my back door, he grafted a tree for me in one of the demonstrations. That was part of what I wanted to try to showcase this year for him at Randall, that is at Flomaton Famous. Every time I walk out here, one of the best trees I have kicking right now is one that's not even supposed to be growing in this area. And I got him. So every time I look at that tree, I think about him. And so it's going to be sad. And folks, that's what you tell me if I'm way off here, Jessica, but honestly, the classes are fantastic, but the number one thing in my experience that people find at festivals like this and others like them is community. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was amazed at how many people were able to come in and they had never met each other. And by the end of the day, they were all exchanging numbers or planning how to get together, how to help each other out, or finding out that, hey, we're not even 15 minutes from each other. And, maybe we can get together and help do this, or maybe we can, do that. And it was mind-boggling to me to see how many people made new friends that day, and they're still staying connected. I personally made so many new friends that day and still stay connected to them, and we catch up or reach out, and it's been great.
I couldn't agree more, and this is why some folks are wondering, like, why am I putting so much emphasis on a lot of these festivals? Well, we got a country that by anybody's estimation looks as if it's falling apart. Well, we're going to need community. We're going to need like-minded people that we can work with to get through whatever may be down the horizon. And like you said, every single time I go to one of these festivals, Jessica, I find out that every single time I come across somebody who's within 10 miles down the road from me, but they didn't know I existed. I didn't know they existed until we congregated at, a festival like yours. Every single time, no matter how far away from home I am, there's somebody there that I didn't know, that we share a lot of the same thoughts. So that's one of the biggest things that I'm kind of pointing out when it comes to a lot of these festivals. It's the community you build. In addition to all that, what else do you guys have going on? I mean, what are some of the activities that maybe in the local area that people might find interesting?
In the area, I'm actually live in Florida. I am an hour and a half from where we do this event. But over in Dothan, they have quite a few things that they offer. They have some really good farmer markets that are over that way. Enterprise has a great farmers market over at their town statue that they have. And then we have some really good shopping over in Dothan. If any of you ladies are thrift store shoppers, they have some of the best thrift store shopping there is over in Dothan. And then we have our little Rural King that's over there. That's kind of like a Tractor Supply on steroids.
Yes,
and I love that thing.
I walked in there last time. I think I was after I can't remember what Michelle and I were after, but it blew my mind. I mean, this was, like you said, a Tractor Supply on steroids.
Yeah.
And this was like, okay, better not spend too much time in here because I'm probably going to go home with a lot of things.
And I love that their shirts are super affordable. You go in there and they have cute little shirts that are super affordable for men, women, and children. And it's a one-stop shop. So your husband can be in one area, you can be in another area, and there's an area for your kids as well. That's what I love about it. And they also have like your canning supplies and dehydrating necessities. It's a really good store.
Yeah, there's a whole lot going down there, and I would have never, ever known had I not been down there. Jessica, what do you want to leave with people? What are the tickets? How do they get there? Just kind of, give them a refresher about what's going on there and when it is and how to get there.
So it's April 12th and 13th from 7 to 5 both days. You can go to keepersoftheoldways.com to get tickets. It's $15 for one day, $25 for two. Kids 14 and under are free. There are 5 classes that do have an extra ticket purchase, but those are your processing classes, your grafting class, and your blacksmithing class. But your kid classes are free, and I highly recommend that if you've not been, to come to this. And if you can't come to mine and there's one in another area that you can go to it. Like, you will make friends. There are things you can learn, and it is so beneficial in so many ways. It's encouraging and uplifting, and it will get you back on track. If you're feeling down in your homesteading journey, one of these will pick you back up.
Bam. Couldn't have said it myself. Well, thank you so much for coming on with me, Jessica. I know this was kind of a big deal for you to find you had adequate internet and all that good stuff, but I'm so glad you made time for it, because almost certainly you're going to have a number of people out there that are looking for community, whether it's people there. It just blows my mind every time I go to one of these things, how far away people go just to find somebody that they can have a conversation with. So
Yeah.
it's been a joy to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Take care. All right. That was Jessica from Keeper of the Old Ways. And y'all, I got to say, that is a ballin' name for a festival. So, yeah, unfortunately, I mean, I was booked to go down there. And then a while back, I had to tell them, oh, shoot, Michelle reminded me that all of a sudden, yeah, you know, we do have lambing season. It's going to be, well, before then, but, you know, it's just too much for one person to manage by themselves. You know, especially in these, it wouldn't be so bad if we weren't in the doggone mountains, but we're literally farming up the side of a mountain. And it goes like this. So I know it's hard to see in the videos, but that's exactly how it goes. So once again, I want to give a hat tip to Jessica for coming on here. You know, it was a big deal for her to be able to stop what she's doing and go out here and get on here and tell everybody. And once again, y'all, the reason I am getting as many festival operators on here is to let everybody know this is where you can find community. Look, the clock's ticking. I'm not going to be some fear mongerer. I'm not going to do any of that stuff, but I do want you to know that things are starting to become really, really consequential, and you need to get involved in any way that you can. I mean, is it going to get stupid? Look, I got news for you. It's already stupid, and it's about to get worse. So once again, everybody, I want to thank y'all for being in here. I'll hit a couple. If you got any questions, leave them in the chat. Hopefully I can get to it. I'm going to go to some of the ones I got right here. So right here, was wondering if you have some directions on the bone sauce and could you share it with me? Andrea sent that to me. Okay. So if you just Google bone sauce online, I'm probably going to pop up. Those videos are going to pop up. I got a couple of them, maybe 3 of them out there where it shows you the applications that we've done before. Now, the one that works the best is going to be, remember, this was completely designed for orchard settings. So that's exactly where you want to try to use it most. Have other people have great success and other, you know, putting it around their boxes? Yeah, we have, but it was really meant for the trees. And remember, my last video, I think it was the last video, I talked about how use that trifecta around things like your trees. Don't just trust the bone sauce all by itself, even though it's pretty doggone great. It's the best. It's not a panacea, but it's the best money can buy. In addition to that, remember, put that little cage around there. Plant your daffodils around there. Deer and voles and everything else, find them repulsive. So use that trifecta. And remember, when it comes to security, 2 is 1, 1 is none. And that also goes in every other thing as well. 5 is 4, 4 is 3. You get the point here. So that's how I go about that. Okay, this here says, hi, Billy. I thought I'd send you a message. I'm finally getting to starting some seeds. He's talking about comfrey here, and he's asking when the comfrey is going to be ready to sell. As I said before, that's probably going to be the middle of March. And he was wondering about the comfrey we sell. That's Bocking number 4. And to us, it is, if there was a better comfrey out there, we'd probably sell it, at least from where I'm standing. So, yeah. That's exactly what that's exactly how we roll. And the reason why, you know, I could dig it up right now, but folks, we got to do this stuff responsibly. Do you know how many people I know that have got to raising organic pigs that were doing it great? There's one guy in particular I knew in Louisiana doing really, really great. And then all of a sudden got a bunch of retail customers on board, and then he had to fill those slots. So they're technically organic pigs, but he's got them in a moonscape. They're not eating anything on the ground because there ain't nothing. It smells awful, the whole 9 yards. Well, that's exactly the same. You can either view farming as farming or mining. That's really your choices there. So you can go out there and rape the landscape, which is exactly what we would do if we were to harvest comfrey right now. We got to do it in accordance with that permaculture ethic, which means there's times I'm just going to leave money on the table because it just doesn't make sense. And I want to be able to get it down the road in the best way and at the best time where it's going to be where it's going to be the best opportune time for anybody that might be planting it, which, by the way, you can plant it anytime. You can work the soil. It's just, I'm not going to ruin Billy's jungle palace of love because I'm out there for the almighty dollar. And that's really not what means anything to me, y'all. So let's see here. We got any, oh shoot. Yeah, I'm not sure we got any questions out there. Oh, Here we go. Cat B says, hi, Billy, wondering how to set up the 440 hertz on the radio. Yeah. Okay, so the only way, I don't know that there's a way to mitigate it, man. If somebody wants $1 billion idea, I'm telling you, Cat, I think you just came up with it. If there was a way, mostly what's coming across the radio is going to be 440 hertz, which was absolutely done on purpose. I want to say in 1938, Goebbels, Hitler's, propaganda minister, and that, boy, this is one incredibly sordid story. I want to do a podcast on this one of these days. Basically got everybody, and everybody said, okay, we're on board. We're going to change it from 444 hertz, which is basically a perfect resonant frequency, to 440 hertz, which is very dissonant frequency. When they did that, all of a sudden, there's some people that theorize that all of a sudden, guess what happened? World War II breaks out. I think it was a little more involved than that, but I'm sure it might have had a hand. Cat B said, yeah, I'd love to hear all about it. So I'm going to give you the cliff notes right here. So at that time, from that time until this day, every single bit of music you hear on the radio is coming across in 440 hertz. Like I said, it's very dissonant. There are people out there that have done experiments where they've taken trained musicians and they let them hear tones that were in 440 hertz and then let them hear tones in 444 hertz. And every one of them, without question, said, oh my goodness, yeah, 444. I mean, they didn't know what it was. It was part of the experiment. And they were like, man, it just sounds like a very consonant resonance. Man, it really wakes me up. And so if you, Cat, can come up with a way to take the music you hear on the radio and transform it from 440 hertz into 444, and there's some others like 528. There's a number of really awesome tones out there. They're called the, I was going to say Fibonacci, but that's not it. There's a name for it, for all of these solfeggio. That's the name of it, solfeggio frequencies. And they all chill you out. You can go to wholetones.com. I don't have a deal with them or anything like that, but basically what I've taken, I bought their music and I overlaid it with the Psalms, which is read by somebody else. I even have it done where I'm doing the narration of Psalms and some other things. And there's another biohack reason for that. And so what you're able to do, I'm thinking, okay, if I can take the word and overlay it with these healing frequencies, what's that going to do for me? Well, folks, when I'm out here and I've been battling from time to time, and it usually happens on the days they spray, I battle with this anxiety and I don't know where it comes from. And I think there's a number of other people out there dealing with it as well. I've talked to about it with another Christian brother that I won't name right now, but I've talked about this, and apparently they're dealing with the same thing. I don't know if it's the same circumstances, but every time I get in this anxiety that I can't explain, I go outside, I ground myself, and I say, usually I got to say, like the other day, I had to say Psalm 91 before it left me. I'm not kidding y'all. And then there are other times, well, I'll take these healing tones, which are overlaid with the message, and then that brings it down to it. And there's a lot, turn off the Wi-Fi, turn off the phone, all those things. Sorry about the long-winded answer to that, but really that's what it comes down to with a lot of this stuff. Let's see here. What else we got here? All right, Billy, can I use a 6 to 8 inch diameter piece of culvert pipe around the base of my trees to keep to keep the deep mulch from contacting the bark? You can do that, but it's not absolutely necessary. I mean, I wouldn't use it for that. Believe it or not, first of all, that's a great idea. If you can do it without damaging the bark, getting it on there, that's a great way of going about doing it. And the cool thing is it will keep the rabbits and voles or whatever else that might be on the surface from messing with your trees. That's a great strategy. The thing is that no matter what you put on there, I promise you that you're going to cover up your grafting union no matter what. It's going to make its way up against that tree no matter what. So from time to time, I usually go in there. If you see it rooting off, you're seeing all these spurs come out of the bottom of your graft union. 9 times out of 10, that's because your graft union went underground. And that's what I hate about store-bought trees. People like Flomaton Famous, they show you to leave, and like Stefan Subkowiak, you leave from your rootstock to your graft union. You basically, for anybody watching, let's say that's your rootstock, your graft union. If you can leave 8 to 10 inches between that, you never have that problem about it going underground, and then it's going to want to root off of your rootstock, which is not what you want. So I don't know that there's I don't know if that's going to stop that, because in my experience, it hasn't. So give it a shot. If it works out for you, by all means, let me know. Hey, y'all, I want to thank everybody for coming in live. I want to thank everybody listening. Like I said, y'all, leave us a 5-star review over there. It lets more people know about us. The podcasting area is one of the few realms where there's still is kind of the last frontier of free speech, at least for now. And even in many cases, they're even, suppressing us over there. So do what you can, help us out. Tell everybody what we're doing, y'all. Thanks everybody for coming in live. Until next time, stay alert, stay alive.
They don't want an individual, just a carbon copy. You spitting that manicotti, yeah, I'm talking saucy. All they want to build is a prison world full of pet Tamagotchis. Like a kamikaze, got me out of body like I'm Goku SS3. They want to push me to the center like a cell. They want to split up at the center of the nexus, me.